Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 7 of the Christmas Craft Countdown, where I'm sharing 20 Christmas-themed Cricut projects in 20 days. Half the projects are designed by me and half are guest designer projects from some of my crafting friends. Today's project is one of mine and it's this snow globe shaker card. This is a fun interactive greetings card that you can add sequins, beads or glitter to the middle of to replicate a real snow globe effect. The best thing about this card is you can add whatever picture you want in the middle. I've chosen a winter village scene, which is also included as part of the file download, but you can add anything in the middle. I think it would look lovely with a Christmas-themed family photo in there. An envelope template is included too that the card fits into perfectly. Let's get started! The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. First, register a free ticket for the Christmas Craft Countdown at craftwithsarah.com/Christmas23. Click any of the buttons on the page and enter your name and email to register. If you're already registered, check for an email from me with subject line Christmas Craft Countdown ticket information, or any of the other emails from me that you have been sent throughout the countdown. Can't find them? Check your junk or spam box to see if they've gone there by mistake. These emails contain the link to view the countdown projects and download today's files. Scroll down the page to find today's project. Click the button to start the files automatically downloading to your computer or mobile device. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/Christmas23 bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Christmas Craft Countdown, plus loads of extra bonus designs. All downloads come in zip folders. You need to unzip them before you can upload the files into Cricut Design Space. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, it's time to get the SVG file for the snow globe card into Cricut Design Space. Open up Design Space and start a new project, and then go into Upload over on the left, and then Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find the file on your computer, or drag and drop it in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of the folder and then the file to select is the one which starts SVG in the file name. Click and drag that in. And it does look a bit weird at the moment with the blue and the green. I'll explain all of that in a minute, so don't worry, this is what it's supposed to look like. So I'm going to go ahead and press Upload and then click it in my recent uploads to get that green border and then press Add to Canvas. And this is how the card loads in. Let's have a little chat about some of these pieces. This blue layer here, this is the piece which you will be cutting from acetate, so a see-through plastic, transparent plastic material to make the front of the shaker. We've then also got a green piece here. This is going to be our photograph or printed image to sit in the middle. You can't see it at the moment, but if you look down the layers panel, there is a red layer here, and you can use the arrows on your keyboard to move it apart so you can see it. Oh, don't resize it like I just did. This red piece will be cut from craft foam, and this is how we're going to add a bit of depth to add all the shaker sequins in so that they've got room to shake. Now you'll see later on in this video when I'm sticking mine together that the foam I used wasn't quite deep enough to add in the decorations I wanted. So if your decorations are quite big, maybe you've got the little polystyrene snowballs, that's what I tried. It didn't really work because I didn't have enough room. If that's the case, I recommend duplicating the foam piece by clicking the duplicate button up here and cutting 2 of them, and then you can stick them one on top of the other. Then you'll have more depth for your little embellishments in the shaker. Just bear in mind that will obviously make it thicker and potentially more expensive to post. I'll just delete that one. I'll do mine with just 1. And the card itself loads in at the correct size. It is just under 7 inches tall and it will be just under 5 inches wide. It will fit in a standard 5 by 7 inch envelope, but if you don't have one or if you'd prefer to make one, I'll show you how to do that shortly. First though, let's transform. Where did it just go? Let's transform this green piece into the picture to go inside the snow globe. First, let's click everything over here and ungroup the layers so it's easier to work with. Then go to upload again and upload image. And now it's your time to choose what you want to go in the middle of the snow globe as your printed picture. You could either do a photograph, which would look lovely, or any kind of graphic you want. I have included 20 different winter snow scene images within your download folder, which you can choose from, and I'm going to do one of those. So here's my unzipped version of the folder again, and there's one in here called Images. If you look in there, this shows you all of the pretty images that I've included for you, and they've all got kind of a blush pink vintage style theme. I'll choose the bottom one. Let's drag that in. And you'll notice that this looks different to how it did when we uploaded the SVG. And that's because this is a printable picture. So we need to choose complex. And if you're doing this with a photograph, it's exactly the same. Choose complex and press continue. We don't want to do anything on this page. So just apply and continue. Choose print and cut image and then upload. It might take a few moments because they're quite high quality large files. Now I can click it and go add to canvas, and it's probably going to load in huge. Let's just make it a bit smaller. Now we need to cut this into the shape of our snow globe. So first I'm going to click my green and go arrange, bring to front. Then under operation, change it to a guide layer, and that changes it. So now it's just an outline in pink, which means I can resize my picture and position it exactly where I want it to go, and make sure that it is going to completely fill all of this snow globe shape with the print. If you're using a print that has some transparent parts on it, maybe it's cut into a shape of something and the outline is transparent, then you'll need to do things a little bit different because otherwise it won't cut the entire shape out. First, I'll show you how to do it if you've got an image like mine where it is completely covering. So I will select both of those and then go slice. And then it will cut out. So now I've got that outline. I can delete that. And I've got my guideline. I don't need that anymore, so I can delete it. However, if your picture had transparent bits on it, so it didn't cut it exactly the whole filled shape, then what you would do is you wouldn't delete the guideline. What you'd do instead is click on it, change it back to a basic cut, change it to white, and then click on your print and cut layer and go arrange, bring to front, put it on top, and then select both of these. So I've got my print and cut and my white, and click flatten. That way it's going to add that white to any bits of the image that were previously transparent, which means that it's still going to cut the exact shape that we need, and the Cricut will still just cut around the edge. So I hope I explained that okay. I'm not sure I did a great job of when you'd need to do that versus just deleting that guideline. If you're unsure, do the changing it to white and flatten it because it's not going to harm it either way. And this will fit perfectly into the snow globe when it's all printed. And that's all we actually need to do, apart from the envelope, which I almost forgot. All right, let's do the envelope next. So I'll go to upload again and upload image. This time, go into the envelope folder, and you want the one which starts SVG in the file name. Click and drag that in and press upload. And here it is. It will load in at the wrong size, so we need to resize it to match the card. And you can use this red layer as the guide because that is the full size of the front of the card. So let's go arrange, bring to front, move that. And then you want to, actually that's a pretty good size anyway. I might just make it slightly smaller. So you want your card to be able to fit in the blue section of the envelope. I'm leaving a bit of a gap around the edges to allow for the height of this card, especially because it's got that foam in it. For the shaker, it will be quite tall. So yeah, that actually loaded in at kind of the right size, but I thought it would be a good idea to show you how to change it just in case it didn't. There are a few extra things we need to do. So I'm going to click my blue rectangle layer, change it to a score line, then click the whole envelope and ungroup the layers. Click that score line, press Shift on your keyboard and choose the kind of rectangle layer underneath. So I've only got those two selected, and then press Attach. Attach is what tells the Cricut that we want it to do that score on that rectangle piece. And that's all there is to it. If you want to, you can get your Cricut machine to address the envelope with the pen tool. I have a separate video on how to do that, so I'll link to that one in the description of this video. Now I can click on Make It and begin the cut process. The picture in the middle of the snow globe will be a print and cut image. If you're new to print and cut, I do have a separate video which goes through the full step-by-step how to print and cut on a Cricut. And to avoid kind of filming something I've already filmed, again, I will just add the link to that video in the description of this one. So if you need instructions on how to print and cut, or if you're having any trouble with the Cricut doing the print and cut, check out that other video. And then under here, I've got my envelope. And at the moment, my envelope is the same colour as my snow globe. That's actually not what I want. I want my envelope to be cut from patterned paper. So I'm just going to change the colour of them so that it will cut from a different colour. Okay, good. Now I've just got my snow globe on here. Can change the paper size, and you do need to change that for every colour. Let's go A4 on that one, and I like to rotate this around and put it at the top. It just means it will take up less space. I can use all of this area on the card another day for another project. My red one, remember red is from the craft foam. And the blue at the bottom will be cut from acetate. I actually don't use the acetate cut setting that comes in Design Space. I don't find it works very well. Instead, I use the craft board setting to cut my acetate, and that generally seems to do it pretty well. Here's my envelope. And you can, if you're sneaky, click these three little lines and go Move Object and get them all on one sheet of card, which is very helpful for using up less materials. So I'm just going to do that. Make sure nothing's overlapping, otherwise it won't cut properly. But that's all those shapes on one. And don't worry that there's now an empty sheet. That will disappear once you hit continue. So go ahead, when you're happy with everything, press that continue button, get everything cut out with your Cricut. Again, one thing I probably should have already said is I do again have a separate video on how to cut craft foam with a Cricut using both the deep cut blade and the knife blade. So whichever one you've got, you can use that with your craft foam. And again, I'll add the link to that one in the description of this video. So there's lots of additional techniques coming into this card, but it is truly worth it because it's such a beautiful card when it's all finished. So go ahead, get it all cut out, and then we will stick it together. I've now got all my pieces cut out, so it's time to start making the card. The layers to be aware of are the foam one. So this is how it looks like. I used white foam. You can use any colour you want. It'll only show on the edges. And also, if I can pick it up, my little acetate window for the shaker card. And then I've got my print and cut image. Everything else is just the cardstock layers to go on top. I'm going to be filling my shaker card with these little polystyrene glitter snowballs, but if you don't have any of that, you could use sequins or seed beads or even glitter, although sometimes glitter isn't the best because it can stick to the acetate with all the static electric in there, but there are loads of different things you could try to fill up your snow globe with. Here's my base card. I'm going to fold this in half. We didn't put a score line on it, but it's really easy to fold. And then to hide the fold, there is another snow globe shape in that same colour, which we're going to glue on the top. So then we'll have that full snow globe outline. I'm going to add my glue to the card because I don't want to accidentally put any over where that fold line's going to be. There we go. So it's just that tiny little bit overlapping, but it looks so much better for doing that so that we've got the full circle. Next, we've got our foam layer to make the dimension of the shaker card. And for this, you need to make sure that you glue all the way around the edge of the snow globe area with no gaps, because if there are any gaps in the glue, it means that your shaker embellishments, whatever you decide to put in there, will be able to escape through the gaps, and we definitely don't want that. So just lots of glue on there, no gaps in it, and then carefully put this onto the card. Don't push it down really hard, otherwise your glue will smush out the sides. It's more a gentle tap to make sure it's all really well stuck and you're not going to get any gaps. There we go. And then glue your printed image into the middle. It fits perfectly in the foam. Well, it should do anyway. If it doesn't, you can just move the foam about a bit. The foam can warp a little bit when it's cutting. Oh, not quite lined that up. Ah, very pretty. Okay. I'm thinking because my snow globes are quite thick, I actually probably should have done 2 layers of foam. These might end up too thick. Let's give it a try. Yeah. Okay, so that's not going to work unless I cut another layer of foam. And actually I used the last of it on this project to cut the first one. So if your embellishments are thick like these ones were, just go back to Design Space and cut, I just dropped them everywhere, cut just the top layer of foam again. And then you can double stick them, so stick it on top of itself, and that will be better. But I'm going to go and try and find some smaller embellishments. It's crisis averted as I found some sequins. I've already put 2 colours on, so let's just add a third one. And we're just sprinkling these into the middle. I'm making sure it doesn't go up any higher than my foam, otherwise I'll have that same problem again. Nice amount in there. And now we can add the acetate onto the top. And again, make sure there are no gaps in your glue, otherwise those sequins could escape. Put that on there and then I'm going to gently tap. Get that glue smudged around the edge. No spaces. Like that. It's a bit hard to see. But all my sequins will now be lovely and contained within there. We can now start adding the top of the snow globe with all the decorations. And we have the white piece first here. I've already got my glue on here. That's dried a little bit. I may have tried sticking this on at the wrong time earlier. With the magic of video editing, you never would have known. Get some glue around there. Stick that on. Beautiful. Next is the one with the little snowflakes taken out. The problem with metallic cardstock is any little bit of glue, you really notice it. Clean that up a bit. There we go. And then finally is the outline to go on top. And when that's all dry, that'll be my beautiful snow globe all ready, and you can see it's starting to shake in there. I don't want to shake it too hard right now because my glue's still drying, but I just love the effect of the silver card as well. It really makes it extra special for Christmas. So there's our card done. Now what about an envelope? Here are all the pieces of my envelope. And I've done mine from this snowy pattern, and you could either choose to have the white on the outside, which would make it easier to write your message on, and then when you open up the top you'd see the pattern inside. So if you're posting it, that might be a better idea, but if you're giving it by hand, I like to have the pretty side on the outside, so that's what I'm going to do. And we just need to fold up along all these score lines. And we've got our 4 flaps. We've got 2 shorter ones and 2 longer ones. Okay. I prefer double-sided tape for envelopes just because it sticks instantly. Got my tape runner. I'm going to go down each of these 4 sides up to the score line, but make sure you don't go any further than the score lines. Then all the flaps just stick on. Line it up against the score line so you've got nice straight edges. There. And then turn it over, and now we can stick the flaps up. Now there is a right and a wrong way to do this, so let's have a look first. If we were to fold the smaller bits in and then the big one, you see you've got a lovely neat bit in the middle. But if you did it the other way round and stuck the big flaps in and then tried to stick the smaller flap over the top, then your points don't line up and it just looks really messy. So make sure you fold in the smaller ones and then we'll put a bigger one over the top. I'm going to add my glue down the flaps down there and there. And my glue, obviously, I mean double-sided tape. Right, I've gone over the edge a bit on this one, so I need to fold it over because if you leave any tape hanging over the edge, it means your card might catch on that when you put it in the envelope and get stuck in there, which you definitely don't want. Fold that up, and that's it. Nice, easy envelope for our snow globe card. And that will go beautifully in there and fit lovely, all ready for posting. Let's just give it a test. Perfect. Now shut up. You can glue it, tape it, do whatever you want to seal it. And there's our envelope. And our pretty shaker snow globe, all finished. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make this fun snow globe shaker card. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more cricket crafts and Christmas fun. I hope to see you tomorrow for day 8 of the Christmas craft countdown. Don't forget, the link to get the cut files for this project is craftwithsarah.com/Christmas23, but they're only free to download for 24 hours after the video goes live. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!